Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cynical Marketers. This is season 2, episode 4, 56 in total. So we are marching right along. This week, here's your hook. It's the end of OpenAI is in sight. There you go. There's your hook. Does that keep you? Do you want to hear about it? So there's big trouble on the horizon for OpenAI ChatGPT. Some things that have come out in the last couple of days I think is really interesting. And I know people think we're negative and anti-AI. We're not really. We're anti-using it as a crutch for everything and thinking this is your savior that you can replace people with. That's what we're anti. And that all the gurus, the 300 million AI agencies who started up out there to immediately cash grab.
In the last 12 months.
Yeah, just in the last year. You know, that kind of stuff we're against. And this overselling of it to all the CEOs and CFOs who try to lay off their teams thinking, that, well, we don't need anyone to do anything. We'll just have an AI tool do it.
Yeah.
That's what we're against. I'm not against it as a tool. Yeah. And I think on the marketing side, I think you still need smart people who know what they're doing and know what good output looks like and know what's right and wrong. And when they can use a good tool like this, it enhances good work. It doesn't replace it, but you still need people who know what they're doing. Yeah. So that's what we're against, to clarify anybody who just thinks I'm an old man yelling at clouds.
I feel like we have to clarify this all the time because we are notoriously been labeled anti-AI, and we keep saying we're not anti-AI. We use AI, and we actually, you and I, between the two of us, have kind of used every freaking AI platform that's out there. You know, we work in Claude, Proximity, all the different.
Yeah. I actually don't use ChatGPT anymore. I thought it got so dumb towards the end of last year that I canceled my subscription. And I think this was a thing they were doing to try, because they're going to lose money. There's leaked documents that show this year too, that just came out. OpenAI is going to lose $14 billion this year. Mm-hmm. And this is on top of years and years of losses already. Yeah. They're going to lose $14 billion again this year. Yeah. So they have to start doing things to try to turn it around. They got to make money somehow. Yeah. There's no way that's sustainable. And I thought last year they were starting to do some of that. They were going to dumb down the free model for sure, and the cheapest membership tier, the $20 a month one, to try to, without coming out and saying it, they're going to make those, products a little bit worse so that you will be like, well, maybe if I move up another level, it'll get better. And they restricted access to some of the thinking models to only our best thinking model is only available at this one. So I actually stopped it last year. I am primarily Claude, which I like, but it doesn't mean Claude's not wrong sometimes too. I actually will stack. They're stacked. You should be stacking AI tools, and some things are good for this, some things are good for this. You do one thing in one and then take that output into another to continue it is some of the stuff that I do. Claude. I love Gemini. Google's, it's great. I think that does a lot of good work too. DeepSeek is one nobody talks about too much. I use DeepSeek a lot. I think that's the Chinese one though, so you got to be careful with that one. But
it's interesting though, because ChatGPT, everybody's predicting that it will not survive past this year, right? And I use ChatGPT, and in my experience with it, Mike, has been that it's been kind of very generic on copy, which is what I primarily use it for, right? So it's, copy for, SMS emails, different headlines and stuff like that. I feel like it's gotten really generic. It's starting to use the same words over and over, But I'm still very much a ChatGPT girl, right? So I haven't quite moved out to the other platforms as much. I've tried Gemini, I've tried Claude. Claude I find very useful for reporting. But ChatGPT, interestingly, we keep talking about it and circling about this, and a lot of people are talking about, how are they going to even stay in business? And it doesn't look like they're going to, right? It doesn't look like they'll actually be able to sustain their operations going into next year,
Yeah, Financial Times of India is one article I was reading about it, and they were talking, the Deutsche Bank analysts looking at it. They need another round of funding to survive beyond mid-2027. They're saying they'll be done. So why would they get more funding? Things look bad for them now, right? They've lost traffic. They're losing people to competitors. Nothing looks good. It's not really improving. There's no AGI, right? There's no agentic that's been created, really. There are others who are innovating better, so why would people keep pouring money into it? And I wanted to play this clip here. This is an interesting clip. Jason Calacanis, he was on the podcast This Week in Startups. This came out a couple of days ago. Watch this level of production that we're at here too, everybody. Check this out. We're going to play this clip from the episode.
If I was a developer of any kind, I would never work with Sam Altman and OpenAI. This is a warning for anybody dumb enough to use Sam Altman's OpenAI API. They are studying you. Remember, Sam Altman's been around the block. I've known him since Loop. He's an incredibly savvy person, and he wants every bit of revenue from the ecosystem. He's going to study how you're using the API, which he has the right to do. Sam Altman comes from the Zuckerberg School of Business, which is give dumb people access to your tools, study them, and like the Borg, steal every innovation they have. And Zuckerberg got it from Bill Gates and Microsoft. Microsoft had a platform, an operating system they let people build, Lotus 123. Then they did Microsoft Excel. They let people build a product called WordPerfect and WordStar, and then they built Microsoft Word.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
Oh, the Zuckerberg school of.
The Zuckerberg School, give dumb people access and then steal from them.
Yep.
So that's more too about Sam Altman, that you just, why anyone trusts any of these guys? I don't. Like any of the tech people from the West Coast, like any of them in any function, they think, differently about all of this stuff. Get the most money you can. It doesn't matter who gets screwed or hurt. They will outsource jobs. Google, how many H-1Bs are they going to hire to do work so that they don't have to pay an American here to do it? They import labor or they'll offshore it. They go as cheap as they can, but then operate in the American market with American consumer prices. They want American dollars from the consumers, but they don't want to actually pay people, right? That's what the tech companies do,
And tech companies have always done that. I mean, that's
for sure.
Elon has built like every single business on that model. And so it's interesting too, the news, everything that's been in the news for AI, Grok has gotten banned in 70 plus countries due to the adult nature of content that it can produce and that people have been using very openly on Twitter without any restrictions. Sam Altman has talked about adding adult content for age verified users in ChatGPT. Yeah. And, I was saying to you just before we started this episode, like, I wonder what type of revenue they can even make up with that. Certainly not $14 billion worth, but then also, who knows, right? Like, we're headed in a very dangerous direction with these tools, because in order for these companies to make up the loss in revenue, they're really going to have to start doing some crazy stuff, right? Like, I don't know.
OpenAI too announced in the last couple of days as well that they are going to start testing ads on their platform.
Right.
Which is funny, right? Because they said this is a nonprofit. Remember when they came out talking about OpenAI and Sam Altman's, oh my gosh, he's a crunchy tech guru. He loves the environment and people. And this is a project for the people. This is a nonprofit, everybody. Look, you're in a volcano lair underground somewhere. You're a Bond villain. And I've said that before. They all are, every one of them. Yes. Like, I don't know why anyone believes them, and then everyone falls for it. CEOs and CFOs definitely fall for all that stuff. Look, what? Oh, what did the kid in the vest say? I can lay people off with this tool? Okay, I'm in,
It's really, I think we're entering a very dangerous territory. We've talked about the AI and the effects of mental health, right? We've talked about the danger to children. We have taken, we have a very small platform here, but we do try to be accountable for the tools that we use in our everyday jobs and understand that those don't just apply to marketing, which seemingly like 99% of LinkedIn does not believe that AI exists for anything other than marketing.
I know.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, we are very conscious of the fact that all of these companies, in order to make up the revenue loss, are going to have to start doing different things. Ads, adult content, age verification. Do you really trust Sam Altman with your ID? That's where we're headed, right? They're going to want us to upload like our ID information to verify user age and all of that stuff so that they can, quote unquote, prevent certain content from being shown. Grok is headed in that direction. Again, it was banned in like 70 plus countries over the last 2 weeks, just since January 1st, because it generates child abuse material, right? Like, so it's really, I mean, they're headed in an interesting direction. And then we've talked about this also. Are they going to start charging for licensing, right? Like, we see AI images everywhere. And we've tried testing these various tools last year at this time, and then again at midpoint, and then again now. And we've seen improvements in images that it generates, right? Like, and if you give it enough source images, it can create a new image like for you. For example, an email hero or a social media post or a Facebook ad. You know, are they going to start charging licensing fees for some of this creative? They're going to have to do something to try to make up this revenue, because if they don't, they will definitely be out of business, right? Like you said, Mike, like, who's investing, who's doing another round of, you know, venture capital to Sam Altman when he's losing $14 billion a year, you know?
And even
like,
if they do licensing, licensing for what? It's all stolen stuff. There was there was an AI generated video that just went around social media the last few days with Billy Bob Thornton, the popular trash TV series Landman. And it was an AI video, but it was an interview that Billy Bob Thornton was supposedly giving, saying he's leaving the series. And it was AI generated, and it wasn't disclosed that way. It was just put out. Right. And then, like, people like, he's leaving, like, it generated a little bit of news, like in the entertainment world anyway. I don't know how wide that went, but that's the kind of stuff, right? So what tool was used to use that? Licensing in anything doesn't do anything. And I know we had a commenter on one of our videos say that they're going to push us towards the digital ID. And yeah, I think the governments obviously want that. The UK tried to roll that out, and the people, surprisingly, in the UK fought back. They don't usually, whatever the government wants to do to them over there, they're all seem to be okay with all the time.
Yeah. I know Canada is in process of fighting that back really hard right now.
I don't want that, but that's what they're going to say is the only way to protect the children. And it's always the children. People will always use the children. Like, the only way to protect the children. Like, no, here's another way to protect people. Hold you accountable. The platforms need to be held accountable for what's being put out on their platforms. You know, Section 230. It needs to be dealt with. Stop. Yeah. The publisher, you know, or platform, what are they? They're publishers. They make all the money from this stuff. Yeah. They need to be held accountable. When somebody uses your tool to make a fake image of Billy Bob Thornton making a claim, you need to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
You guys do. And until they're held accountable, nothing will change. They want to make the laws apply to the 14-year-old kid who's out there making meme videos, who's got no money or anything, no power of any kind. He's just being a dumbass kid making funny videos. And like, oh, well, he violated copyright. We're going to go after him.
But I mean, it is wild, though, to think about, like, Grok, you know, obviously has been in the news because of the child materials that you can generate. I don't know if I can say the word in like a YouTube video, but, you know, we're generating child materials, content on Grok directly on Twitter or X or whatever. I'm still calling it Twitter because, you know, but it's wild to me that you're telling me, like, all these tools are so intelligent and so good, but they can't recognize that this is the content that's being done using actual children's faces, you know?
Sure,
so of course they can. They're just not going to, right? Because the more people use it, the more they're going to be able to sanction and charge, you know, higher fees for image and video generation, right? Like irrelevant of what the content is. And I think, like you said, Mike, like these companies need to be held accountable. We've heard Sam Altman say insane things out in public in interviews about how AI is going to end the world. Like they have come out and said it, you know, and everybody's pretending like it's not a big deal. Like I've told you, like I've come across all these videos on TikTok about people who are like, I've survived my AI psychosis, right? Like they've so deeply on a personal level interacted with AI that, you know, this was like a mental health crisis for a lot of people. And we talked about this early on last year about the fact that between 24 and 25, the use for ChatGPT alone changed from copy editing and writing to being a companion and a friend and a therapist, right? That was like the number one use of the tool. And so when you think about, like, I don't even know, that data hasn't come out for this year yet. That was around February timeframe last year, right? But like, that's concerning. It just, all these like things are so concerning. And then thinking about like, well, they may be out of business next year, right? So for all those businesses who have so bought into relying on AI and for their strategy and their copy and their images and everything, right? When that rug gets pulled from under them, you are starting again from square one. You know, like that's the stuff that like I think is important for businesses to keep in mind. Like you said at the top of the podcast, Mike, like, you know, you still need people who know what they're doing to use these tools. They're tools. They're not end all be all, right? Like, and seemingly businesses are heavily leaning into AI, all things AI. And you're like, I don't
Right.
know. It just
Excel
makes no
didn't get
sense.
rid of bookkeepers,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
or
But
you know,
even-
QuickBooks didn't get rid of the need for an accountant.
Right.
They're tools used, and
tools.
amateurs can use them. Like I can use Excel, and I use it to sum columns. And there's other people who can do incredible things with Excel. You know, there are people way better with that tool than I am, and the simple things that I use it for.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean I'm not good at the other stuff that I do in my job. It's a tool.
Yes.
A hammer, right, in the hands of a carpenter can be used to build a house. I know how to use a hammer.
Yeah.
You don't want me to build a house for you, though.
Right.
You know, it's just a tool. And what is it in the hands of somebody? You need the right people using those things.
Yeah.
You know, just because it can ostensibly do it. And you had all these gurus out there pushing it, which again, I think the undisclosed influencer campaign that went on to selling this dream to people, because now you have a lagging, it always lags, especially in the marketing world with senior leadership, CEOs, CFOs. They'll hear this forever, and it's going to take them a couple of years to catch on to the fact that this stuff didn't work as promised.
Yeah.
They're still going to be pushing their teams to use it. We don't need this person to do that in the marketing group. Just have ChatGPT do it. And you're like, it doesn't work that way. And it takes as much time.
Yeah.
I have a video series that I've worked on that I use AI for the images because I have created it like a graphic novel style. It takes that minute to minute 20 video takes about 10 hours for me to do, to get everything generated, get corrections done. You know, nothing comes out in AI right the first time. You're having to keep working, you know, and that's about a minute to minute 20 long video that takes about 10 hours a week to make that thing using AI, 100%. I use 11 Labs for a voiceover. I use Claude to write the script for me. Here's what it's based on. I tell it, here are the things that we need to talk about. Here's the point of this. Now generate a voiceover script that needs to last in this amount of time, right? Takes about 10 hours to do that video.
And it's interesting too, Mike, because, you know, like we've talked about this with the whole Coke commercial, right? The AI commercial and the McDonald's AI commercial. You know, every single one of them has said that they've pretty much spent the same amount of money and the same amount of resources. It just, the resources were allocated differently. It didn't save on time, you know? And I mean, for someone like you to generate that video, like you're not an illustrator, so it helps to have the AI tools to generate the graphics, right? And that's great. You know, if you had an illustrator at your disposal that you could work with, it would probably take maybe that longer. Who knows? But, you know, people will use these tools for when they're, I think when it makes sense. The problem is, I think when you become overly reliant on the tool and these companies change or up their price where it's no longer manageable for you to use the tool. I know a lot of people are paying $100 a month for ChatGPT because they'll max out the $20 plan generating images or trying to generate the video, right? And so when that $100 becomes $300, will you see the value in it, you know? Or will you, as like, especially like in our space and small businesses and service businesses, will you see the value in it? Or will you be like, oh, well, maybe I should just have somebody else, you know, somebody do this? I think it's interesting. I think it's wild that they're all losing an insane amount of money. And yet everybody is pushing it like it's, you know.
It's still the thing.
It's still a thing.
You know, we talked
it's crazy.
late last year, maybe there was a report that came out, and you guys, you can find it maybe, but that less than 5% of businesses who have gone all in on AI have seen any kind of a return on investment.
Yeah. I mean, Duolingo fired all of their contractors, right? And then brought them back.
And then had to bring them back.
Yeah.
There's other businesses too who've tried to go all in right on their AI chatbots. And so they got rid of their customer service and then they've had to go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just, again, it's a tool. It's not this thing. So we'll see. One of my predictions for 2026 was the AI bubble bursting. So we'll see. Something's coming. Because I don't think OpenAI, unless there's things going on that we don't know about. Some of these businesses get government contracts that we're unaware of, and that's what keeps them afloat, right? Like maybe. Yeah. But I don't know. Deutsche Bank and that Times of India, what they say, over $140 billion Deutsche Bank analysts predict OpenAI to lose before they might start turning a profit.
Wild. That's
a pretty big risk.
Do you know how much can be done with that money?
Yeah. I mean, Amazon lost money forever.
Right.
Until all of a sudden Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people in the world, right? But rare to find anyone who's going to stick that out.
Right. Yeah.
And wait.
But then you think about like where Amazon started and where they are now and how completely of a different business model that is, right? Yeah. Where is that to go with AI? Right? Like there's only so many different places you can take it. Okay, it's already doing copy, already doing some kind of research, reporting, analytics, video, imagery. Like what else can you do with it? I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Businesses. And even on that point, like, because I know a couple of businesses who really are hard on SEO, AI SEO and stuff, and really investing a lot in the tools for it. And my point is like, okay, that's fine. Maybe an incremental improvement. Like what kind of core advantage do you think you're going to gain? And what do you think you'll see from that? Because your competitors will react in the same way.
Right.
And these are bigger businesses north of 50 million a year, right? And they're competing in a market space that has 100 million a year plus bigger competitors. Yeah. So if you're this smaller business and you think we're going to use this new AI tool for SEO, do you think at the $100 million business, there's no one sitting around thinking what AI tools are out there we can use to improve our SEO? You're the only friggin' people who thought of this idea maybe? No. Right? No. Your competitors can do the same stuff. And this is what happens with AI content. Everyone can do it because it's easy to do. Push a button and it generates your perfectly formatted and SEO optimized documents for your blog posts.
Yep.
Everyone can do that.
Yep.
So you don't have a differentiator there.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I agree with you, Mike. I think there's a bubble there for sure. We'll see what happens by the end of the year.
We'll see. I don't know. What do you guys think if you're still here?
Yeah.
We always ask.
We always
do.
Still
here.
Hi, Lance.
Lance hasn't been commenting. Lance got a new job.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still running his small business, and he's the head of national sales for a new brand, for a food brand too now. So Lance might be too busy to do this stuff because he's running his business too, and a full-time job. Lance is pretty busy.
He's still our number one fan though. All right, guys, tell us what you think.
All right, thank you guys. We'll see you next week.